On Thanksgiving Eve, 1971, Northwest Orient Flight 305 departed Portland for a routine 30-minute trip to Seattle. The passenger list was light. The weather was miserable. Shortly after takeoff, a quiet man in a dark suit and sunglasses handed a flight attendant a polite handwritten note. He called himself Dan Cooper. When she sat down next to him, he opened his briefcase just enough to reveal a battery, wires, and several red sticks. He told her he had a bomb. His demands were precise. He wanted 4 parachutes, a fuel truck waiting at the airport, and $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, exactly the denomination you see here. The airline immediately complied. This photograph shows that exact Boeing 727 sitting on the rainy tarmac in Seattle, where the money was delivered and the 36 passengers were released entirely unharmed. With his demands met, Cooper ordered the crew to take off again into the freezing night. And then, somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, he vanished with the money. Half a century later, investigators are still trying to understand exactly how he pulled it off. Take a look at this blueprint of a Boeing 727. Cooper selected this specific aircraft because of one structural anomaly, an aft air stair located directly under the tail. As the plane drops on this chart, it illustrates his first instruction to the cockpit. He ordered the pilots to cap their altitude at exactly 10,000 feet. This kept the plane low enough that the freezing outside air still held enough oxygen to breathe. Next, notice the landing gear extending on the diagram. Cooper demanded the gear stay down and the wing flaps be set to 15 degrees. This acted as a massive airborne brake, dropping the airspeed down to 170 miles per hour. Finally, watch this pressure gauge equalize. By ordering the crew to leave the cabin unpressurized, he ensured the heavy rear door could be opened against the wind without triggering explosive decompression. Cooper exploited the specific engineering limits of 1970s aviation, effectively converting a commercial jetliner into a custom getaway vehicle. This aerial view shows the sheer scale of the mountainous wilderness he was flying over. It was pitch black. A heavy winter rainstorm was hammering the region, dropping visibility to 0. Around 8 o'clock at night, wearing a suit and a parachute, Cooper lowered the rear staircase into the freezing wind and stepped into the void. The military jets tailing the airliner saw nothing. The radar tracked nothing. He disappeared completely. The mechanical perfection of his plan ended the second he left the cabin. From that moment on, his survival was entirely subject to the violent, uncontrollable chaos of a Pacific Northwest winter storm. Looking at this dense, foggy, evergreen forest, you can see why the immediate ground search failed. Hundreds of FBI agents and soldiers combed through Southwest Washington for weeks. They found 0 trace of the man, the parachutes, or the briefcase. What they did have was a black clip-on tie, which Cooper left sitting on his passenger seat before he jumped. Decades later, microscopic forensic analysis of that tie revealed unexpected traces of pure titanium and other rare metals. These materials were highly restricted at the time, leading investigators to conclude he likely worked in the aerospace manufacturing sector. For 9 years, the trail was cold. Then, in 1980, a boy digging in the sand along the banks of the Columbia River, shown here, and unearthed 3 decaying bundles of $20 bills. The serial numbers on those bills were a perfect match for the ransom, but the bundles totaled just $5,800. The other $194,000 was missing. The rare metals on the tie pointed toward thousands of potential aerospace workers, while the scattered, rotting cash offered no definitive proof of his death or his survival. The forensic evidence simply pulled in 2 opposite directions at once. This grid represents the massive scale of the FBI manhunt. Over the next 45 years, agents aggressively investigated more than 800 distinct suspects. Men confessed on their deathbeds. Widows pointed fingers at secretive husbands. Extensive background checks were run and alibis verified across the country. And yet, not a single suspect could be definitively matched to the crime. In 2016, the FBI did something unprecedented for a case of this profile. They officially suspended the active investigation, running out of credible leads. The outcome remains trapped between 2 distinct possibilities. Either the earth swallowed his body after a fatal fall in the deep woods, or he walked away with a fortune, living out his days in total anonymity. By exploiting the physical limits of a Boeing 727, Cooper engineered an aviation anomaly that outlasted the largest manhunt in American history. He stepped out into a storm and left behind an entirely empty room.